What's up, my people? Welcome to another edition of Driving with Doug. I'm driving around right now, trying to clear some thoughts in my head, have the windows up, AC on, and I'm just rolling in my truck. But as I'm driving, I'm looking around these houses. I've passed through these neighborhoods and roads a million times over, but I'm looking around and I had a thought. People actually drive around areas and they look at really expensive houses, really nice houses. And I think the reason why they do that is because they can imagine life living in those houses, having a house with a pool, or, they see a 4-car garage, and they sort of create what's called a suspension of disbelief. They use it a lot when dealing with movies. What can create a suspension of disbelief? And the suspension of disbelief is being able to take yourself from reality and immerse yourself in the world that's being shown to you so that you can forget about your own reality for a while. And when people are driving around looking at houses and they see these for sale signs and they think, oh, what I could do with that house. Or, I have this room. And so they start friggin' pretending and planning what they would do if they could afford that $1 million home, that $750,000 home, that $2 million home, that house on the Cape. People do this thing called window shopping where, they'll go to the mall, go to a nice store, whatever, look at the clothes that are on the rack, knowing they can't afford it, but they just go and look at it, imagine themselves in it, makes them feel better, creates that suspension of disbelief. The problem that I truly believe a lot of us face is that our realities are so shitty that it actually makes us feel better to be in an alternate reality where most of our problems don't exist. Think about it. I don't know if anyone's ever seen Avatar, right? Avatar there's an alternate reality where these people live and they pretend they're aliens. There are aliens, whatever. And it's a whole nother universe with a whole new lively experience. People in real life want that. People in real life don't want to have the argument over who's president. People don't want to argue the difference between Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. People don't want to get into disagreements about how people hurt you, how they upset you, and one person feels they didn't, one person feels they did. And what's happening now is where people are stuck inside their houses and a lot of people are afraid to leave home. A lot of people are out of work forcibly, by the way. People just don't want to have those ugly conversations. They don't want to be alone with their realistic thoughts. So people find more TV shows to watch on Netflix. They find themselves spending more money on on-demand movies because they want to be entertained. They don't want to be brought down. They don't want to look at their life and examine and try to find things to make life better. They don't want to just exist because idle hands are the devil's plaything, so it's been said. And when you have time and you're not doing anything and you're forced to look at life for what it is, your life for what it is, you actually have to do something. For me, business has not stopped. Both of my jobs are still running full steam, but I still find time to work and think and figure out things in my life. And I spend sometimes trying to plan out things. I've set my sights on doing some things and I didn't accomplish them. However, I walked into it with a sense of reality, knowing good and damn well that I may not get that job done. And I'm okay with it either way. But I'm not going to bombard anyone with over information on how I plan on doing it, what I plan on doing with it, and when I plan on getting it. I just dream it to myself. I say, okay, I can get this done. And if I don't, then it's okay. It's no harm, no foul, right? A lot of people waste their time, shall I say, going through the motions of everything. There's something new, it's shiny, it's great for the time being, so they use up all their time thinking about it. I just said thinking about it. And they spend their time planning it out what they're going to do when they get it, but they have no plan on how they're going to get it. They have no plan on execution. All they want to do is go to the end. Suspension of disbelief is huge. The older we get, the more it happens. I said in a comment on Facebook before to someone, everybody is so caught up on having their contacts. All they do is press one button. They don't want to learn the number. They don't want to dial it out anymore. What do people do when they don't have their phone? What would you do if you had to call one of your best friends and you didn't have your phone, you had to use someone else's? I bet you wouldn't be able to make that call because you don't know their damn number. All you know is press on their name in your contacts list because you have a smartphone. That we are all conditioned at this point in life, at this point in the world, this point chronologically, where everything is at the touch of a button. No one really wants to think for themselves. No one wants to react. Everyone wants to be conditioned. That's why when we have these things on Facebook, people will take a meme that isn't even based in fact. It's mostly just someone's opinion because they cleverly worded it. Someone else shared it and related it as fact. Someone can come to you with information and say, no, that's wrong. I'll even throw in the facts. Oh, you don't even have to look for it. I'll give you the actual news source and you can look for yourself. That's actually not true. The person will be so conditioned to believing the stuff that they hear from people like them, they're going to shoot down every bit of truth you send to them. Suspension of disbelief is huge right now. Nobody wants to take the time to examine and react because all that requires work. Sure, everyone wants to have all the muscle, but no one wants to go to the gym and sweat it out. Everybody wants to be skinny, but nobody wants to diet. Everybody wants the 6-figure job, but no one wants to put in the work to get that job. What if someone said, you can have a mansion, all you got to do is build it. I'll pay for all the materials, I'll buy all the parts. I'll even get you helpers. All you got to do is participate. I bet you 99% of people wouldn't even take it because they don't want to put in the work. They want someone else to do it. It is instant gratification, the suspension of disbelief. It is those two things that people strive for now. They don't want to put in the work. They want a participation trophy, but they want a participation trophy to be more grandiose than the first place trophy. Because now it's about the work that you put in, the thoughts that you put in, the man hours that you put in to making things happen and making things work. People will call you a brown noser, or people will call you lazy or poor because you didn't have the funds or the means to get other people to do it for you. People think that is what's power. Now me, for example, I could do plumbing. I could probably watch YouTube. In this day and age with technology, you can go on YouTube, you can figure out how to fix most things. But I know for me, I'm just not that guy. I would rather pay somebody to do it because I don't want to learn that, but that's me. I'm not lazy, I just don't want to do it. So I'll pay someone the convenience fee that they set forth in order to get it done because their time is being utilized by me for them to do a job or trade that they are skilled in. So I'd rather pay them to do it than me to learn it. It's whatever, that's fine. That's how I choose to live my life. Some people, I know some people I work with, they watch YouTube videos and they figure out how to do all their stuff on their own. That's fine. I don't mind that, but I am willing to admit that I am just not that person. But there's all kinds of people that would rather sit there and bump their chest and play let's make believe like a 10-year-old and say, this is me, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this other thing. And in reality, there's nothing getting done except for a bunch of air coming out with a bunch of babble. Because the words they're saying don't match up with their actions. It just doesn't work. Suspension of disbelief is crazy. That's why movies go to #1. Because people can take themselves out of their realm and be immersed. Like, think about it. Star Wars is one of the biggest selling franchises of all time. Why? Because people can identify with characters and put themselves in that world. Like Harry Potter, people can identify with characters, put themselves in that world. That's why they have cosplay now, so people can identify with characters in that world and become them, take themselves away from their actual life. Like me, I love video games. A lot of people love video games because it relaxes them. They take themselves out of their worlds. Like me, one of my favorite games right now, NBA 2K20. I suck at basketball. I'm terrible. Anybody that knows me knows I can't play basketball to save my life. All I can do is clog up the paint and block shots. I'm not rebounding, I'm not shooting. But I love NBA 2K20 because it gives me that suspension of disbelief. I can step away from the anxiety of my everyday. I can step away from the drama of every day. And I can do things that in real life I really can't do. I like to play the Division 2 because, again, it's set in an environment where you can, create guns. You gotta plan out. You have to execute missions. And you can modify your weapons to make them better. So it requires a little bit of thinking. But again, it is that suspension of disbelief. I can step away from my reality. But the problem is a lot of people don't know how to come back to reality. They're stuck. They're intent on planning for a world that does not yet exist for them simply because they don't look at the work it takes to get there. They just want the end result to come. They just want to, it's almost like being in jail. You have like 2 months left of your sentence. So what are you going to do? You're going to sleep the whole time so that time will pass. You will wish that you're asleep, not doing a thing. You're not awake, so your mind doesn't have to think about how much time you have left, so you don't have to count down. A watch pot never boils. So you'd rather just sleep through it and let it happen. Wake up, boom, you're out. But guess what? Life doesn't work like that. It requires work. It requires planning. It requires tears. It requires blood. It requires sweat. It requires a lot of sweat equity. That's what goes into everything you need. Suspension of disbelief, it's not going to work. It's not going to accomplish anything for you in the real world. This is not VR. This is real life. You're going to fail. You're going to fall. Things are going to happen. But until you deal with those things, until you read and react with those situations, nothing is never going to change. People are too busy playing checkers and not knowing enough about chess. The whole thing with, things in life, you have like even the whole BLM thing. Sure, you can get rid of every single person that said something about a black person. You can take away all the statues if you want to. You can change all the major sports teams' names and get rid of everything that happened in the past, but we're not really doing any real change because it all starts with one thing. That's police brutality. Everything else is just smoke and mirrors. So you have to take the meat and potatoes, the good stuff. That's where you're going to put in the most work. That's the stuff that requires the most sustenance. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to look at those things. The suspension of disbelief, creating that false sense of security to where you can get away for 2 or 3 hours and you don't have to think. It's all automated for you. But don't get fooled. Like that movie WALL-E. It was a world where people didn't have to do anything. Everything was automated. So they go onto this big ship in space and they all get fat and they all get lazy and everything's right there. It gets so bad that they move around in chairs. They never have to move. That's close to real life. That's what everyone's doing. No one wants to put in any work. No one wants to do anything. No one wants to take the time to address any real issues. No one wants to put in the work or sweat equity for anything. They're just too busy not being busy, trying to look busy. You know what I mean? That's the problem that we're running into nowadays. And unfortunately, as we do this and as we go through this, people are not addressing the real issues in their lives. Just like people are in shitty relationships and they refuse to address the shitty relationship. All they do is look outside the relationship and just hope that things stay the same. That's kind of what I have done in the past with relationships. That's why I suck at them. Because I'm too busy not dealing with the relationship, and I'd rather do other things that hurt the person in the relationship. And I don't want to address it because I don't want to upset the balance. We all have these problems in life, and until people start addressing the reality, eventually that suspension of disbelief is going to be done. Eventually that movie is going to be over. It can't go on forever. You can pretend your life is like a movie, but eventually the credits are going to roll. The recording is going to stop. And you're going to be faced with the real danger in front of you. And we have to learn that, yes, reality may suck. Yes, reality requires work. Yes, gravity is real and we can't fly with a cape. But in reality, you don't need to fly or have superhuman strength to be a superhero. You can be a villain or you can be a superhero, and you still can be on the right side of reality. It just depends on your perspective. So this was a rambling one, but I will leave you with that. Take from it what you want. But don't let suspension of disbelief keep you in the movie. Your life is not a movie, it's reality. Bring it back to focus. Bring it back to center. This has been another edition of Driving with Doug. Make sure you check out some of my other videos if you need them. I wish you peace, and as always, love and light, my friends.